Welcome back to the channel. I keep getting asked by players, how can they create more space between their body and their arms in their swing? So very common question, and it's a little bit different for each player what they may have to do. So what I've done today is compile what I see as the 3 most common ways that I see players lose space. Maybe you'll fall into one of those categories. Hopefully this helps you with your game. Thanks once again for tuning in. So again, we're looking at creating space. So I often share in the past what's helped different players, but today I'm just kind of cataloging the 3 most common ways in which I see players lose space and providing feedback on what those players could do. Okay, so first one that I see that's super regular is that in the takeaway, right in the start of the swing, the arms and the body don't work in unison together or in a nice relationship to each other. This is usually a lot of hands and arm motion. So when I do that, when I show you from face on, what you may notice is how close my trail arm is to my body. So that's number one. Number one is the hands and arms being very dominant in the move away without the body working in a good relationship to them. So obviously, if I move my body with my arms in a good relationship, now you can see that I've created a nice bit of room between my trail arm and my body in the takeaway there. So right in the takeaway, we can start looking at creating space. We don't have to wait until we're stuck halfway through the downswing and then look at like, okay, what do we need to do in that specific part of the swing? We can start right from the get-go at creating that space to make it easier as we move through our swing. Okay, so really simple drill for this that I've shared in the past is one that I got from Mark Bull. So if we set up and go into our golf posture and spread the fingers in our lead hand, we're going to push the center of our trail hand here into the bone here on the top of the lead thumb. So just as I'm doing here. So what I'm doing here is I'm pushing my right hand into my left and my left into my right to create a little bit of pressure there between that point. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my hands, or feel as though I'm moving the hands with my belly button. Okay? So that would be the move away there. Okay, so I'm allowing the belly button to stay in line with where the hands are pushing together. And that's the move away. And I could even take my grip there. That's the exercise I would advise to players if they feel as though they could be that player that fits into, they're a little bit dominant with the hands and arms in the start of the swing. Okay, number 2 is very much related to that because I referenced the trail arm being close to the body. It is players that through backswing don't create enough width with their swing to have room for their trail arm, so the trail arm getting narrow is in backswing specifically is number 2. So I would encourage players, if they feel that that's them, to put their lead hand under the back of the trail arm, make a thumb with their trail hand, put the thumb up on their trail hand, and then rotate with their body to a position where the trail elbow is in view, because often when players stay narrow with their trail arm, the trail elbow will often get pushed behind at the top of backswing. So we're going to stay nice and wide with the trail elbow. We're going to point the thumb, not at quite the target, maybe out to, let's just say 11 o'clock for a right-handed golfer. And we get a sense of what it's like to be there at the top of backswing. So my trail elbow will also not get too much higher than my trail shoulder. Maybe at the same height, maybe a little lower, but I definitely wouldn't see it getting pushed up too much higher at the top of the backswing. That's a great little exercise for players that want to create more width at the top of the backswing. So what you might notice there while I'm doing this is you're going to have to make sure you have a good stretch across the lead side to get your lead hand up to where you want your trail hand to be. So number 3 is actually in transition. So you can see the little theme here as well, takeaway through backswing into transition. And what I'll often see with players that lose space is the distance between their hands and their lead hip get narrower in the transition phase. So let's just define transition as, say, about lead arm parallel to the top to back down to somewhere close to lead arm parallel, because transition is that phase where segments are moving in different directions. So as the lower body starts to downswing, the club, arms, hands are moving still to the top of backswing. So in the transition phase, I would expect to see from here, because the lower body's starting the downswing, there be more space created or distance created between the hands and the lead hip there. So just rehearsing there can be a good one. So what I would encourage players to feel is that as they get to lead arm parallel, they're shifting their pressure into their lead foot. Maybe different for each player where they would want to feel that pressure depending on their pattern. For me, I have to feel as though it moves slightly into my heel, but I'm also keeping connection with my lead big toe. So left arm gets to parallel, I'm rehearsing the transition there, the lower body moving in a different way to the arms, and you can see how that creates more length through my system here, from my lead hip to my hands, and that's going to create me space as well for my arms to move into. So one thing that you might notice there in those 3 drills are they were all takeaway, backswing, transition. So it wasn't in particularly all focused on creating space right at the point where the player felt as though they were stuck. So that would be one thing that I would emphasize with players, is that if you're losing space, start off looking right at setup, maybe even how you're approaching the shot. Could be your alignment as well that's influencing what's going on. So if you're still struggling after you've seen these 3 and played around with them, definitely hit me up with a message here. Be more than happy to learn from where you're at and maybe help a few other people as well.